Welcome back to the Good News, everybody. I'm your host, Elisabeth Gunawan, and this is your other host.
Hi, welcome back to the Good News. I'm your host, Qiyu.
So today we will actually be wrapping up what has been a very exciting season over lockdown. And so what we will be doing today is Chiyu and I will actually be interviewing each other. And we're also joined by two audience members, aka the Chiyu Lee fan club, Kazuki and Anroy. You guys want to wave to the camera?
Oh, I'm sure.
Oh, we are back!
What's going on here?
Okay, Chiyu.
Oh, coming back!
Okay, Chiyu, you're editing
Okay.
shit.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
I pause it.
Okay, shall we move on, or do we need to re-record that part?
I think I like this part, so we can keep it.
We're gonna move on.
Yeah.
So, we've kind of spent the past week, right, you thinking about some of the more important questions for the world that we're gonna ask each other. So why don't you go ahead and start?
What do you mean by important question for around the world? And
For fuck's sake, just the questions you prepared.
I'm just kidding. Yeah, I guess our first encounter was kind of a random. We met in Amy's online study rooms, and at the time you were in quarantines or something. Yeah, and I was basically looking for a host to do this program, and yeah, and I guess my first question is what was your first impression about me? One of the most awkward questions in human history.
I thought my first impression. So it's funny, right? Today's world, because you often like meet someone not in person, but like you chat with them first, and that's what happened between us. Was like we were speaking over message first, and I was like, oh wow, this guy's really like proactive. He wants to start something new, something unique, which is a podcast. Yeah, and then then we finally started chatting, and we eventually like arranged a call or something. I think I got the sense that like you were quite shy, but also I got the sense like you're a very kind person, and so I immediately felt like comfortable being myself because I knew that like your intentions were always so pure. I got a sense that you were really hardworking.
Please go on.
And that I needed to keep up.
Yeah, it was quite funny because I remember that when we first talked about this program, and the first few questions you asked me is, "Are you a perfectionist?" And I was like, "No, but I'm a scientist." I don't know whether that makes you sound even better or not.
Yeah, because I ask whether you are a perfectionist because I find it really hard to work with perfectionists. Because actually, if you're creating something, and especially something new and something creative, you can't be a perfectionist, because if you're a perfectionist, you'll never make anything because it'll never be good enough, So that's why I asked you, and when you said no, I was like, thank God.
But I'm a scientist.
Being a scientist is good. Trusting in science is good. It means you're basing it on like the real world and analysis and the things that you observe, as opposed to like your own standards of perfection, which doesn't exist.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to be honest, in my field, or like when it comes to science, I do act like a perfectionist. But to me, having these podcasts going on in the college, it's I wouldn't say it's just kind of my hobby. It's something that I really wanted to try to explore, do experiment with. So I was quite open to any kind of ideas. And also I know like this podcast is going to be a success from the very beginning. because we have good intentions. Like when we first talk about this project, we make sure that we do, I mean, we do wanted to bring some positive energy to the community. But meanwhile, we just wanted to have fun and just to get something going on in our lives. So yeah,
Yeah,
so that's why I was always feel quite positive about how this project would turn out.
I think that's spot on. And also, like you said, I'm sure when you're working as a scientist, like you're very different than from here. And I'm the same. But I would say actually, like perfectionism and rigor is different. Like rigor is a great thing. That's what that's what ensures that you're doing a good job and that you're being honest with yourself. But not necessarily being perfect because that's impossible.
Mm,
And I
yeah.
think you're right also, like I think your intention has been really clear throughout this whole project, which is that you want to connect people.
Yeah, because I think I always love to listen to this kind of interview program. And to me, like the best way to help people is just to get to know them first. And to me, that is really the big thing because that makes me feel like even I'm still like doing these whole things by myself or like with you, but we are connected to other people's, and also not just with our guests, but also with our audience, for example. Like I still remember that in April's, I bumped into Ines on the corridor, and she said something like, "Oh, I like your podcast. I have been listening to your podcast." And to me, that was really huge to me because that makes me feel that I'm connecting to our audience, and it was the compliment that I really miss and I still treasure a lot. So,
Mm,
Ines, if you are listening right now, then thank you.
thank you for sharing that.
Mm,
So it's my turn to ask you a question.
yeah, sure.
Um, and it's also related to the podcast. We've had many episodes and many different moments. Was there ever a moment during an interview or while editing the videos that you went, wow, maybe I shouldn't have done this?
I mean,
As in you regretted starting this podcast? Or second
uh, yeah, I guess in general, I was quite happy with what we did, but there's definitely one moment I feel quite regretted about in Muzina's episode, and that is when she didn't want us to record the part when she taught us how to do exercise, but I still kind of wanted to record it anyway. So yeah, in the end, we didn't. I mean, we didn't use those clips, but I looking back, that was kind of not okay. Yeah, so that is something that I was regret about. Yeah.
So perhaps at this point we can open it up to our audience members, aka the Chiuli fan club. If you guys have any questions for us.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you guys for doing this for a good enough community. It's been such a good pleasure to actually listen to some podcasts also being interviewed. It's just such an honor, and then I really appreciate your effort to put into this. So I do have question for you guys. Could you guys tell me about the episode you like the most or you enjoy the most during the interview? Both of you? Maybe Elisabeth first, and then Chiyu.
Sure. I really, really enjoyed doing the episode with Rachel when we were talking about yoga. Um, and because I also practice yoga and I'm a yoga teacher myself, and I think what I really learned was Chio and I both we have this tendency of kind of like making a joke out of everything and sometimes taking the piss out of things and adding games and so forth, all of which are really fun. but I liked that episode with Rachel was so simple and a little bit vulnerable actually. She shared very openly about her life. And I shared openly as well about my thoughts on the practice and everything. And I felt like people responded really positively to it as well. And I think it made me learn that like even if I'm kind of just myself and without all of the terrible jokes in the games, like we can still make good content and it is something interesting for people. Yeah, I really, really enjoyed that episode.
How about you, Chiyu? Which episode you enjoy the most?
Yeah, I think I really enjoyed doing the interview with Claire and Sarah, because I mean, first of all, it's very fun to talk to them, and also it is also my first time to be on the shows and to talk something. Yeah, and yeah, I really like that episode. Yeah, because we kind of try to connect not only people in the college but people who have already left the college, and to still, we still have a like shared things to like remind, I mean, to talk about. And that was really fun. And also we have that tongue twister competition, that friendly competition, which add another like entertainment in the episode. So in general, yeah, I really enjoy like doing that episode, not just as a like host, but also I really enjoy like editing that episode too. Yeah.
So can I ask some question for you?
Sure.
So you mentioned that it's the last opportunity for doing some podcast, but wouldn't you plan to maintain this activity for preparing for the second lockdown? Yeah, because I'm sure that second lockdown will not be evitable, especially in the winter season. And I'm sure that compared to us, at least compared to us, there will be less and less opportunity for the newcomers to interact with each other. So, and I'm sure that some of the population from a bunch of countries have already experienced their first lockdown in their own country. And then it's unfortunate for them, possibly, that they will experience another lockdown, possibly in London. And so that they can compare some of the life of the lockdown, the difference of lockdown in each city. Yeah, of course, it should be managed, not by you, but other guys. It can be managed by other guys. But do you have some opinions for this moment?
Elisabeth, do you want to answer first?
Sorry, I got my internet was like lagging for quite a bit. London House Wi-Fi.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, maybe I can just talk about a little bit. I have, to be honest, I have no intention to continue, because I already enjoyed these episodes, like making these episodes already, and got some taste of how to make a podcast. And especially, I think like this episode, to me, it's quite special that we made this episode with the members like joining last year until like this year. So I probably don't have like energy to make another seasons with another bunch of members. And also, I guess from the bottom of my heart, I believe that even if we don't continue doing this, like other people will definitely be proactive and doing something like positive for the community. And to me, that is the best part about living in the college, because you can always meet like this bunch of people. So like I'm happy to see that this idea to be passed on to the next like generation, or to the next cohorts. And it doesn't have to be us. I mean, at least it doesn't have to be me. So
yeah, I think just to add to what you said, I agree. I think we want to kind of keep it open because this whole project isn't about us at all. It's actually about a podcast that's for the community, and anybody can really keep it alive, even without us. And also partly because this has been super duper fun, but also Chiyu at some point needs to go back to the lab. Actually, has gone back to the lab and do his viva and everything,
Yeah.
and I need to worry about my grades at some point, since I'm also wrapping up my masters kind of through the end of the year, and I have 2 shows coming up. So I think for both of us, it's also balancing that,
Yeah,
and also like opening up the opportunity for anybody else who wants to experience this.
Yeah.
I think also like on the second lockdown, I just think it's very hard to say. Really, there's no point thinking about it because I mean, this is what we've learned, right, as a whole society. It's just like you don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow, so just think about today, you know. And if you can't help but worry about it, what I've started doing is I spend 10 minutes every day just worrying, and it really helps because the rest of the time I worry a lot less because I've done my worrying already. And I think what the only thing that we can all do is just do what we can do, follow the rules, be smart, and yeah, and just keep creating something in spite of the instability of the world.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point because like um try to be like responsible for whatever you do. Like we all facing different issues in our career, so it's really hard to ask other people to do what we think they should do. But I guess at the bottom point, like the bottom line is just simply like if you just be responsible of yourself. And
Yeah.
that's to me I think that's probably the best suggestions I can
exactly. I think the most important thing is to responsible for our own lives first, of course. But at the same time, I'm sure that the college community will be a good opportunity for students to show some of the solidarity, at least inside the college, because I'm sure that the international solidarity will be pivotal for containing this pandemic, to fight against this pandemic. And I'm sure, I hope that this good enough college will keep that kind of position for showing the solidarity for combating against the COVID-19.
yeah
Yeah,
I
try to avoid the second lockdown as far as possible. But I'm sure that it's inevitable in terms of the epidemiological viewpoint. But anyway.
Yeah, I agree. And one favorite phrase I like from the Taipei mayor is that there are many difficulties in life, and the most difficult thing is not to facing like frustrations or facing difficulty itself, but to facing those difficulties without losing your passion for life. Living in this college and interacting with many proactive peoples or many like compassionate peoples has been giving me a lot of energy to facing the problem that I have for at the moment. So yeah, I think that's it's the reason why I still feel confident why the college life can still be very vibrant even without us.
So, given the past 4 months and you're running the programs, and then you clearly you have to have a really strong passion to continue it, because I believe that it's not easy for any of us. So, given that you already know what had happened in the past 4 or 5 months, 5 months actually, and what would you have done differently in these programs? Had you know what had happened in the past 5 months? If you go back to end of March or early April, and you think about doing something, and podcast for instance, what would you have done differently if you go back to early April?
It's like I get what you mean though. But it's like thinking about the like hindsight's always 2020, right?
Yeah. Because we have to improve, right? We can't just So just answer what would you have done differently for these programs, and second is what would you have done differently and in the past 5 months. Had you go back
I
to
don't think I would have done anything differently. I don't think I would have done anything differently. I think I'm very pleased with what we did. I don't think there's I don't think we could have learned anything that we eventually learned without making the mistakes that we first made. Um, I made the decision not to leave the UK in the beginning of lockdown, and mostly it was because I was concerned that if I went back to be with my family in Indonesia, that I would have a lot of trouble coming back here to finish school, and I knew that I wouldn't be able to graduate without coming back to in-person training because I'm at a conservatory. And I would have, if I had gone back to Indonesia, I'm sure I would have made it work, but I don't know how it would have panned out. I would have made it work either way. But I think with what I had and what I knew and the decisions I had to make, I think I made the best of it. So, yeah. So, and here we are, just like ready to crack on.
Great, great. Yeah, very forward thinking, very positive. How about you, Chiyu? Both for the program and second for your like personal career life. How you go back to early April, or you have done differently?
Well, I guess I'm pretty much the same as what Elisabeth said. I feel quite happy and satisfied by what we have done so far, and I do think we have already done our best, and yeah, yeah, that's what I can what I can think of right now. Yeah, because we did, in fact, we did make a lot of adjustment from the very beginning until throughout the whole process. Like in the very beginning, we were quite optimistic about like making the podcast. So I was even thinking about we can release like 3 episodes a week or something. But yeah, we have discussed like how to make this carefully, and also we kind of adjust our pace one by one, and in the end we decided to make it like once a week and try to just get things published regularly so that like people can have a certain like routine to follow. I think that it's a really a good decisions. Yeah, without like pacing ourselves, rushing ourselves into any things. So yeah, and I really enjoyed that moment, like learning how to make this podcast with Elisabeth, and yeah, that's something I still feel really grateful for. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, very positive as well. Yeah, Chiyu, we live very close to each other. I can see you still remain energetic and through the lockdown, which is a positive vibe, just very influential and very penetrating. Even we still, yeah, behind the door, I can still feel your passion. And okay, second, second question. I guess it's probably asked for the board audience because I don't think you guys introduce your interest in general to the audience before, or have you done this before already? Interest, I mean your study interest and your interest in your future career, and how does COVID must change everybody's plan, I'm sure. And what was your sort of career plan or interest pre-COVID and now and post first wave? Yeah, for both of you.
Do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, sure. So I am. I study neuroscience, and this is my third year in the UK. And my interest before COVID is definitely about how the brain works, and also I think I'm quite interested in like social issues in the society. Like I grew up in Taiwan. It's kind of a very vibrant society there, like talking about social justice and talking about democracy. So that is something I really enjoyed getting know about besides like neuroscience. And after the whole pandemic, I think I am more into like trying to connect myself to the rest of the society, because to kind of contend or kind of to fight against these pandemic, it is really not about an individual doing something great, but about how the collective powers can work together and make sure that even though there is a certain like uncertainty, like trying to crushing ons in the following few months, but we can still like adjust our pace and to make sure that everyone is it's at least okay with what we are dealing with right now. So yeah, beside these podcasts, I also have kind of set up another podcast program with some of my friends in London, and yeah, it's about mostly about like social issues in East Asia, and that yeah also makes me feel like there is something else that I can work on besides like neuroscience, like because like neuroscience itself it's great, it try to help us to understand how we works or how to think in that way, but yeah, but on the other hand, like study the brains or just the way that we study the brain so far, it has focused on just one person or an individual subjects. Yeah, like we barely talk about the whole community or like the collective or a group of people or a group of animals, for example. So that is something I wanted to just learn about it from like working with other people.
We'll have to put a plug for your podcast, Ichiyu, so everybody else, all your fans can listen to you on another platform as well. Um,
It's
by the way,
great.
I just want to say, Anro, you're on a roll. Maybe it sounds like somebody might be a good candidate for the next host.
Thank you so much. I do like asking questions, and then I'm generally very curious about people, and then especially you two being, we survived in the past very difficult 5 months, and then it's why I'm also in general curious about and want to know you guys more. I haven't done any podcasts as host before, and yeah, I don't mind consider doing that, but I can tell it's a lot of effort. So yeah, I definitely think there will be more suitable candidate than me. I can just generate ideas, and somebody can help with me.
By the way, how about you, Elisabeth? How do you think like the pandemic would shape your like career aspirations, for example?
So right now I'm doing my MA in theater lab. Basically, it's an acting and physical theater at RADA. This was a big change for me to begin with because I did study acting for my undergrad. And then I had a bit of a detour because at the time I wanted to stay in the US and that didn't work out. And so I had just graduated from college and I didn't have a job and I didn't have anywhere to go and I didn't want to go back to Indonesia, which is where I'm from. And the only option I had at that time was the one job I got, which was a corporate sales job at Google, which would take me to Singapore. And that's why I moved to Singapore. And I worked for Google for 5 years doing sales, learning digital marketing, everything. And I really did entertain for some time the thought that, okay, maybe I don't want to be an actor. Maybe what I want is to kind of work in business, which was also fun, by the way. But acting and like making theater was something that I never stopped doing. And I think I made the decision in the end when I got into school that I would kind of come back to doing it full time instead of part time. I think, speaking objectively, a lot of people probably would say, well, that sounds like a catastrophe that you decided to change your career and go into an industry that has now ceased to exist because of the pandemic. Um, I strangely don't feel that way. I So when the pandemic started, we stopped being able to do in-person training. And something though that I realized was like all of these institutions are crumbling, like the Globe or even like the RSC. A lot of theaters went into administration, but what crumbled are the institutions, but not theater itself. In fact, more than ever, people need something to consume. They need to watch films, and they need to be entertained, and they need to be touched, and they need to be engaged. So, and I think in a way that's why I'm not worried about not having a job, because people will always need to be engaged, and nobody wants to live in a world without theater, even if it has to adapt. And over lockdown, I actually kind of approached what it meant to kind of make theater in a digital way. And so I made an album of poetry. Poetry is, but it also feels a little bit like a radio play. And I worked with one of my schoolmates who's also a musician, and we created an album, and we did a show at a festival called Stamping in the Graveyard. I've actually been, funnily enough, like working quite consistently, actually, since lockdown. Like I did a film, one piece, which was a showcase with students at the Royal Holloway, working on like an ongoing project, which is to do Macbeth, Shakespeare's Macbeth. So yeah, I think it's just about adapting and continuing to adapt. That's my deal.
So what's your dream? You must carry a huge amount of, dream and trust to switch the career to acting rather than doing business, right? I mean, in reality, and it's more risky. It's
I think,
in terms of economic viewpoint, right?
yeah, well, and this is kind of my personal perspective. Yeah, I got to a point at Google where I was like, okay, if I continue on this trajectory, probably I'll be a manager at some point. If I work hard enough, I'll probably be a director at some point, and then I'll just make more and more money and be even more and more overpaid. And there's not enough brunches to spend all that money on. And I'm like, cool, and I see people who chose that life, and that's cool, and they get to travel to cool places and enjoy nice things. But then how I feel personally about making theater is it's fun, it's pleasurable, um, and actually that's what we lack in life often. And I say this partly as a very lucky person who's never gone hungry. I've never lacked money in my life, but I've lacked pleasure, and I've lacked engagement, and I've lacked connection. And those are all the things that making theater gives me. It allows me to connect to people. Nobody's creative for the sake of being creative. People are creative because we need to solve problems, and we need to connect to each other. And I think it's funny when you ask about, like, because I think something also about theater and acting can be very romanticized. Like, even the other day when we were coming back to RADA for the first time, and there was like this building manager kind of inducting us into, how you're supposed to wear your masks and everything in the building. And she was like telling us, she was like, yeah, we're here to keep you safe so that you can keep making magic. And I stood there like, I don't make magic. I just make stuff, and sometimes it's not boring, It's a job like anything else. And I don't really have any big dreams. I just wanna keep being in a place where I can make more theater, and learn. And like, I don't think there's any such thing as making it. I've already made it, because I get to do what I want to do, and there are people who are going to watch it, and there are people who are going to like it, and there are people who are not going to like it.
Right. And do I mute myself? Oh no, okay. So what do you think the new balance will be like post-COVID? And theater now is still very restricted. Most of them still closed, right? Is there any new formation that we could enjoy theater? And what do you see this? This is going somewhere, or this is happening at the moment?
Yeah.
To give us a quick update of what's going on.
We should have a fortune telling segment in the podcast. I think that's a good idea, maybe, for whoever's going to inherit this podcast, where we just like make forecasts about the future. I guess the question is, what is theater, right? I mean, not to get too philosophical about it, but and that was partly when I did my show online, and it was all poetry and sound, and people would close their eyes and listen to it. It's this idea that theater is your imagination, and nobody can take that away from you, even if we can't be together. You know, even at the end of the world, if there's nothing left, you can still make theater. And so I think we'll just have to change the way we make it. Maybe theater will happen more in small groups. Maybe it will happen digitally, but as long as you're engaged. But also, you know, ever since film first came and TV first came and the radio, everybody's always said, "Oh, theater's gonna die," and it hasn't. And I think that's interesting as well. I think, you know, 3-4 years down the line might sound like a long time, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not. And we are going to be in a dark room together again, watching people pretend to be somebody else.
It's very interesting perspective, and I hope you will be one of the early adapters to this. And then in 10-year time, looking back, you'll feel accomplished by what you did and now in the past. Nice. Okay, Kazu-san, do you want to ask some questions? I think I've done 2 of my most interesting thing on my list.
Yeah, I don't have additional any questions, but Elisabeth's viewpoint was very interesting in that she has a good perspective of the long-term growth strategy. Because historically saying, like social activities continued even after some of the World War II or World War I, even provided that there was a devastating effect on the world to the population. But socioeconomic activities has regained. And I'm sure that even during the COVID-19 pandemic or after the COVID-19 pandemic, like a social perspective, like of course theater or movie or music or art will enrich our life during the pandemic as well as after the pandemic. Yeah, I'm sure that long-term grant strategy is important. And I know some of the countries at the national level, some countries are heavily investing in the social activities or maintaining those kinds of perspective, while others are cutting some of the budget in this perspective. And I'm sure that in the next 10 years, the level of the country might be at least partly decided by to what extent they emphasize social activities to enrich the citizen's life. So it's a very interesting perspective. Thank you for sharing.
No worries. I have a question for Chiyu, actually, quite specifically. So,
I'm scared right now.
because you're doing your PhD in experimental psychology, yes, at UCL.
Yeah.
And your research focus is on the role of visual cortex in visual discrimination. And I remember over lockdown, you've always been talking about your mice in the lab. And at some point, I even heard a story about your thumb being bitten by a mouse while playing with it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So yeah, I think it'd be nice to understand, you know, the tips and tricks and how to manage a good relationship with your mice.
That's really difficult. That's a very difficult question. I guess like thousands or 1,000-pound questions. Like, to be honest, just even within neuroscience scientists, we don't really have a consensus about how to play with mice or rodents. Yeah, I guess in general, the people would just spend time and put their hands in the mouse cage and to get those mice or rats to sniff your like hands and to try to make sure that to try to let them understand that your hands are pretty much like harmless, and then they will probably be more open to you, because I guess like interacting with like rodents are pretty much the same as interacting with human beings. When you like facing something like uncertain, you will feel scared or you will try to defend yourself. And the best way just to be patient and just to try to put yourself into their shoes, like in this case the mouse shoes, and try to think about like whether they are anxious at the moment, if I should spend another 10 minutes putting my fingers into their cages, stuff like that. And
I'm now just imagining like a whole cage of like little mice with little shoes.
Yeah.
Now everybody at home knows how to treat their mice right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Jude. Well, I feel like it might be this. This has been a really good session. We can wrap up, but yeah, maybe shall we have some final words from everyone, both the hosts and the audience.
Yeah, how about we follow the alphabet of our name? So we start from A. That's
What?
Andre.
We start from the backward. Okay, what should I say, Chi? Say it again.
I don't know. Do you have any words to say to us or to the rest of
Yeah,
the
for
college?
the audience. Yeah, I okay. Need to think about it. Okay, I just say what I think, and I don't want to just modify that. I think it's been a very difficult year, 2020, probably a year for most of us want to forget. Um, and then we are forcing to embrace the new reality. And so I guess I don't have really much thing to add. I think everybody will just still adjusting their new life. But I want to say, regardless of what happened, and in terms of all the virus, all the political conflict, we are still us. We are still living the planet, and we are still having most of the things we need. Um, Although some stuff probably be unstable, such as jobs, such as research, but we still shouldn't forget we are still lucky to be able to live relatively a more stable life compared to many other people who are not listening to this podcast. So just to be more grateful, and also the word also for myself, try to be more grateful and to capture all the good moments we have with the people you like, the people you love, and also with the people around us. And always just be positive and trying to utilize everything you can to help others as well. And yeah, I'm sure, and most of us will move out and will depart this country very soon. But keep in touch, and then I'm pretty sure somehow our life will cross again.
Okay, so next one is probably C. So
You.
that's me. Yeah. So message to the members. I guess I wanted to just to thank them again for attending the interviews or for like watching our videos, and especially I wanted to thank like Amy who like set up that online study room where I can meet Elisabeth, the beautiful, wonderful woman, and also yeah, like Ines, our number one audience all the time. And yeah, I mean, although I haven't talked to many of the members this year, but their participations in the college has itself meant a lot to me. And also, like, I think like without them, the college life could be really boring. And I also wanted to say something to our new members, like, welcome to Good Enough College. And yeah, so it's kind of it's to me it's kind of it doesn't really make sense to decide to move to like such a dormitory like place at this moment. But yeah, I hope you really enjoy your studies and your community life here. Elizabeth and I are probably not going to be here like in the whole years, but I'm pretty sure that you will hear some good news. Okay, yeah, that's next one. We have Elisabeth.
So I would say for all of the members who are leaving this year, leaving meaning leaving Mecklenburg Square, but not the community. Good job. Congratulations. Give yourself a big pat on the back for making it through what's going to be an unforgettable year that you're going to tell your grandchildren about. Let go of any expectation of how the year you thought was going to go. Let go of exam results, let go of grades, let go of just doesn't exist anymore. It doesn't matter anymore. Let's just make the best of the rest of it. Same for everyone who's in Mecklenburg Square now. Welcome. And yeah, let's take care of each other. And a lot of that actually means staying safe and staying apart, but let's connect and let's take care of each other.
Staying real.
And stay real. Stay safe and stay real. That's my bumper sticker.
Okay, so last one, Kaz-san.
So first, I'm very appreciated for your great contribution to launch and manage this podcast, even in the severe situation of the COVID-19 pandemic during the lockdown. And I personally think this year, between 2019 to 2020, was the most enriching year in my life because I could enjoy my study in London, as well as I could meet a bunch of new friends here in London, even though the COVID-19 pandemic prevented a bit. I'm sure that every single person here has a good enough college community, has a diverse backgrounds, and they are studying multiple disciplines. But the COVID-19 pandemic explicitly showed. Also, I'm a medical doctor. I used to work as a physician, and currently I'm doing research in public health. But COVID-19 pandemic is not an issue in medicine or the public health. It has completely exposed the sector-wide challenges. And no matter what you are studying, or no matter what you work or where you work, COVID-19 will relate to you. We cannot think about COVID-19 anymore. So I hope that this opportunity, this pandemic will be a great opportunity to achieve a much more fairer society, because only a fairer society can lay the foundation not only for the economic recovery, but also for building some of the social resilience to future crises. It's not only limited to the COVID-19. And I hope we can have some of the prominent, how can I say, I hope it's a good time to look beyond this pandemic and predict a more optimistic future by the international solidarity. And I hope the Good Enough College community will maintain this kind of viewpoint. Thank you.
Great. And I think on that note, we can wrap it up. I'm going to do a mic drop to you. Okay. Happy editing to you.